All right, welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today we're taking a close look at gold IRAs.
Gold IRAs.
Yeah, and we're going to be using a whole bunch of articles and bulletins and lists, all from Gold IRA Company's Bulletin.
That's right.
And, we want to explore why someone might consider this kind of investment, with everything else going on, why gold?
Yeah, why gold?
And then, if you do think it makes sense for you, how do you actually pick a company? How do you evaluate these companies? And then we'll also talk about some of the recent happenings in the gold and silver markets.
Yeah, some of the big headlines we've been seeing.
Exactly. So it's like a crash course on gold IRAs.
It is. And our mission here is really to, take all this great info that you've dug up and make it digestible for our listeners,
Yeah.
so they can understand how these gold IRAs actually work, what to watch out for when choosing a provider, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and how all this connects to the wider picture of the economy and, retirement planning,
Hmm.
which, let's be honest, can feel like a pretty complicated landscape right now.
No kidding.
So to kick things off, I guess the first big question a lot of folks might have is like, why even think about gold? I mean, we've got all these fancy digital assets and stocks and bonds. Why bring precious metals into the mix, especially for retirement?
Right, right. And the Gold IRA Company's Bulletin, they actually touch on this. In their retirement planning information, they kind of hint that precious metals should be part of, a well-rounded retirement plan. But there's this other bulletin, The Power of Gold, Diversification, Resilience, and Growth. That one really gets into the why.
Okay, so diversification. That's a term we hear a lot in investing, right? Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly, spreading the risk. And gold, historically, it doesn't always move in the same direction as, say, stocks or bonds. So if those markets take a hit, your gold holdings, well, they might just hold steady or even go up, potentially protecting you from huge losses.
Ah, I see. So like a counterbalance, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about balancing things out.
And you mentioned resilience too. What does that mean when we're talking about gold?
Well, think of it as gold's ability to kind of ride out economic storms. History shows us that during times of, uncertainty, instability, maybe even worries about inflation, gold tends to be seen as a safe haven. People flock to it because it's something tangible. It's a store of value, especially when other investments feel a bit shaky.
Okay, that makes sense. So not necessarily about those skyrocketing gains, but more about holding its value when things get rough.
Right, exactly.
Now, what about that growth part? Does gold actually grow in value, or is it mainly about staying steady?
It can definitely grow, but it's not usually as dramatic as some, high-flying tech stocks or something. It's more of a long-term play. As demand increases and supply stays, limited, that can push the price up over time.
Right, the classic supply and demand thing.
Exactly.
And then, of course, there's the whole inflation hedge idea. If the value of the dollar goes down, well, gold can hold its purchasing power better.
That's a key point, yep.
So let's say you're thinking, okay, gold might make sense for my retirement plan. How do you actually go about setting up one of these gold IRAs? I noticed Gold IRA Company's Bulletin has a list of like the big players in this space.
You do, yeah. They put companies like Augusta Precious Metals, Goldco, American Hartford Gold, Advantage Gold, and Birch Gold Group right up front.
It's like their A-list.
You could say that.
And it looks like they have these side-by-side comparisons too, which seems pretty helpful if you're trying to choose.
Super helpful, I would think. I mean, these companies aren't all the same, right?
Oh,
There are key differences to be aware of.
right, right. So like what kind of things should people be looking at when they're comparing these companies?
Well, for starters, you want to look at fees. Some companies charge more than others, and those fees can eat into your returns. And then there's their reputation, their track record. Do they have good customer service? What do other investors say about them?
Right, like you don't want to end up with a company that's hard to deal with.
Exactly.
And then there's storage too, right?
Huge factor. Where do they store your gold? Is it secure? Are there multiple options? These are important questions.
And then, some companies might offer a wider range of gold and other precious metals to choose from, so you want to see if they have what you're looking for.
Exactly. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
So lots to consider when you're picking a company. Definitely want to do your homework.
Definitely, yeah.
Now, once you've picked a company, what are the first steps to actually setting up the gold IRA?
Well, there's an article, How Do You Start a Gold IRA?
Yeah.
That probably has all the details. But the gist of it is, you usually start by opening a self-directed IRA.
Self-directed, huh?
Yeah, that's key. It's different from a regular IRA where you're kind of limited to stocks and mutual funds. A self-directed IRA, it gives you more flexibility, You hold things like precious metals, real estate, even certain types of private equity.
Ah, so that's how you get the gold into the IRA.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing it's not as simple as just like taking cash out of your bank account and buying some gold coins.
No, not quite. Usually you fund this account with a rollover or a transfer from an existing retirement account, like a 401k or a traditional IRA.
Okay, so like moving money around within your retirement savings, but keeping it all within those IRA rules.
Exactly. That way you can avoid any immediate tax penalties, as long as it's all done correctly.
Makes sense. Oh, and I noticed another article here. Gold IRA companies versus gold IRA custodians. They're different roles. That sounds important. Like, what's the difference between the company and the custodian?
Big difference, actually. The Gold IRA company, they're more like a facilitator. They help you with the paperwork, guide you in choosing which specific precious metals to buy, that kind of thing. They also coordinate the whole purchase and transfer process. But the custodian, they're a separate IRS-approved financial institution, and they're the ones who actually hold and manage the assets in your IRA.
Oh, I see. So it's like a checks and balances kind of thing. The company that sells you the gold isn't the same one responsible for storing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Separation of powers, if you will,
Yeah.
makes things more secure and, well, more regulated.
Right. Makes sense. So the company helps you get set up, and the custodian is like the guardian of your gold.
Precisely.
Now, speaking of rules and regulations, there's a whole section on gold IRA tax rules and regulations. That's probably not the most exciting part, but I'm guessing it's pretty important.
Oh, it's crucial. Taxes can make or break any investment, and gold IRAs are no exception.
Right.
For example, contributions to a traditional gold IRA might be tax deductible, meaning you could lower your tax bill now. And any gains your gold makes inside the IRA, well, those aren't taxed each year. They grow tax deferred.
So you're not losing a chunk of your profits to taxes every year.
Exactly. You only pay taxes when you withdraw the money in retirement.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
And then those withdrawals are usually taxed as ordinary income. So yeah, you definitely want to understand all these details up front to avoid any surprises come tax time.
For sure, for sure. There's also some stuff here about gold IRA rollover topics and gold IRA storage topics. So moving money around and actually storing the physical gold.
Yeah, two very important pieces of the puzzle.
Rollovers, I'm guessing those need to be done in a very specific way to avoid, messing up your taxes.
Exactly. The IRS has strict rules about rollovers. There are different types: direct rollovers, indirect rollovers, and each has its own set of guidelines. You want to make sure you're following the right procedures to avoid penalties.
Right, right. And storage, I'm assuming I can't just stash my gold bars under the mattress.
Nope, not for a gold IRA.
Huh.
The IRS has specific rules about where those precious metals need to be held. Usually it has to be an approved third-party depository, a place that specializes in storing precious metals securely.
Ah, so it's not like a do-it-yourself kind of situation.
Not really, no.
Okay, we've talked about the why of gold IRAs and the how. Let's get into some of these recent market developments, these latest gold-silver bulletins. Some of these headlines are pretty eye-catching.
Oh yeah, they definitely grab your attention.
Like this one. Gold prices anticipated to soar in 2025, surpassing 3,000 Oscars. That would be a huge jump.
It would be. But remember, this is just a forecast, right? Predictions can be wrong.
Of course, of course.
But they're saying there are a bunch of factors that could push gold prices way up in the next year.
Interesting. And it's not just gold making headlines. There's another one that says 2025 is silver set to outshine gold in the precious metals market.
That one caught my eye too. Silver usually follows gold, but it's also used in a lot of industries, which can impact its price differently.
Right, so different factors at play.
Exactly.
And then we get into some bigger picture stuff. U.S. administration considers repricing gold. Potential global market disruption ahead. That sounds kind of serious.
It does, right? I mean, governments don't often mess with the price of gold.
Right, so if they did, that could shake things up.
Big time.
And the last one here, gold and silver break free. The end of suppression. What's that all about?
Well, there's this theory that the prices of gold and silver have been held down artificially. This bulletin seems to suggest that those forces might be weakening, allowing prices to rise more freely.
Interesting. So yeah, lots happening in the gold and silver markets. Seems like a pretty dynamic landscape.
Definitely is.
Now let's zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture, the whole economic context, especially as it relates to retirement. Because, Gold IRA Company's Bulletin also covers that.
Yeah, they do.
And there's this headline that caught my attention: The Vanishing Promise of Pension Plans. That sounds kind of ominous, especially for folks nearing retirement.
It is concerning. Those traditional pension plans where your employer guarantees you a certain income in retirement, they're becoming less and less common.
Yeah, yeah.
So people are having to take more responsibility for their own retirement savings, which could be one reason why things like gold IRAs are getting more attention.
Right, because it's like if you can't rely on a pension, you got to find other ways to secure your future. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff about taxes and the economy. Headlines like Trump's tax priorities, major cuts and loophole closures, 2025 tax updates, 401k, IRA, HSA rules revealed, Trump's tax agenda. How will your taxes change?
Yeah, a lot of potential changes on the horizon.
Yeah, it seems like the whole tax landscape could be shifting, and that could have a big impact on how people save for retirement.
Absolutely. Any changes to 401ks, IRAs, HSAs, all those things, people need to pay attention.
And it's not just about taxes either. There's a bulletin here. Middle-class Americans facing endless work as retirement plan. That's kind of a sobering thought.
It is. It's highlighting the reality for a lot of
Fair enough.
people. They're struggling to save enough to retire comfortably, and some feel like they'll have to keep working forever.
Yeah, and that kind of pressure, it makes you look for different options, maybe something like a gold IRA.
It could, yeah.
There's also a bulletin that says commodities rise, a game changer for portfolio diversification. And gold and silver, they're commodities, right?
They are. So if commodities in general are on the rise, that could make a stronger case for including precious metals in your portfolio,
Yeah.
as a way to diversify beyond traditional stocks and bonds.
Right, right. Now, some of these other headlines paint a bit of a less optimistic picture, like this one. Economy at risk. GDP now forecasts first contraction since 2022.
Yeah, that's not great news.
Yeah.
A shrinking GDP usually means the economy is slowing down, which can have ripple effects on investments and retirement savings.
Mhm.
It adds a layer of uncertainty to the whole outlook.
Right. And then we have debt ceiling. U.S. government nears unprecedented default risk. And is America on the brink of a debt crisis in 2025? Those sound pretty serious.
They do. These are potential systemic risks we're talking about. Concerns about national debt and, the possibility of the government defaulting. That can create huge volatility in the markets. And in times like that, safe haven assets like gold, they tend to look more appealing to some investors. It's about protecting what you have.
Yeah, when things feel risky, people want stability. There's also 2025 economic outlook, more of the same or new opportunities. That feels like a big question mark hanging over everything.
It does. There's a lot of uncertainty about what the next year will bring, both good and bad. And that uncertainty, it definitely influences how people make decisions about their investments and retirement planning.
For sure. And lastly, we have Federal Reserve's playbook, cutting rates and inflationary tendencies. So the Fed's trying to balance things out.
Yeah, trying to walk that tightrope. Their actions on interest rates and inflation, those can have a big impact on the value of, well, pretty much everything, including precious metals. Like, if interest rates go down, gold can sometimes become more attractive compared to investments that pay interest.
Right, because it's like, why settle for a tiny bit of interest when you could potentially see bigger gains in gold?
Yeah, that's the thinking, yeah.
So it seems like there's a whole confluence of factors, worries about retirement security, possible tax changes, an uncertain economic picture, and then the Fed doing its thing. All of this could be contributing to the interest in gold IRAs.
I think so, yeah.
Now, we got to be realistic, right? Every investment has risks. What about the risks of investing in gold? Gold IRA Company's Bulletin does touch on that, I think.
They do, yeah. There's an article called, "What are the risks involved in gold investment?" It probably lays out the potential downsides.
Okay, like what kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, like any investment, gold's price can go up and down. It can be volatile, affected by market sentiment, interest rates, global events. There's no guarantee it'll always go up.
Right, right. Never a sure thing.
And then, with any investment that gets popular, there are always scammers looking to take advantage. So there's an article, "How Can I Avoid Gold Investment Scams?" That's definitely worth a read.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You got to be careful out there.
You do.
What about just general mistakes people make when investing in gold? I see a topic called gold investing mistakes to avoid.
Yeah, those are common too. People might not fully understand the tax rules, or they might choose the wrong types of gold or silver for their IRA. Or maybe they don't think about the storage requirements carefully.
Right, so it's like, do your homework, know what you're getting into.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, as they say.
Now, we've mainly focused on gold, but Gold IRA Company's Bulletin also mentions silver. Specifically, can I include silver in my retirement account?
You absolutely can. Along with gold, platinum, and palladium, those are the usual precious metals that are eligible for a gold IRA.
So it's not just gold only.
Nope.
And there's an article here, Benefits of Investing in Silver, Key Advantages and Strategies. So what might make someone choose silver, instead of gold, or maybe in addition to gold?
Well, silver is usually cheaper per ounce than gold, so it can be easier to get started with. Plus, it's used in a lot of industries, so its price can be influenced by different factors than gold.
Right, so it might offer a different kind of diversification. So, to wrap things up, we've really gone deep into this world of gold IRAs today, using all this great information from Gold IRA Company's Bulletin. We've talked about why someone might consider this type of investment, the whole diversification and hedging against uncertainty angle.
Yep.
We've looked at some of the top companies in the space, talked about how to actually choose a company, and then walked through the process of setting up a gold IRA, including the tax rules and storage.
And we've also touched on some of those recent market developments, the potential for big moves in gold and silver prices.
Right.
And then, of course, we zoomed out to look at the bigger economic picture, all those factors that could be influencing people's decisions about retirement planning. Oh, and we talked about the risks, too, the importance of being aware of those and protecting yourself.
Yeah, it's been a pretty comprehensive deep dive.
It has.
So hopefully our listeners have a good foundational understanding now of gold IRAs.
I hope so, yeah.
And now here's a final thought to leave you with. Thinking about all the economic factors we've discussed and the potential role of precious metals, well, what are your biggest questions about securing your financial future? And what other research might you want to do based on what we've talked about today?
That's a great question to ponder.
Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.